Hi, Darrell from Select Driving School here. Today I want to talk to you about stalling and how you can make sure that it doesn't spoil your driving test. Now, stalling is something that happens to many people, especially earlier on during when they're learning to drive, but it can also happen during your driving test. This usually is a combination of nerves or maybe a bit of panic on the day. So what I want you to be sure of is that a stall is not necessarily going to cause you to fail your driving test. Now, one of the videos I did recently covered the top 10 reasons for failing a driving test, and stalling would be covered under moving off under control, which was actually number 7. So it does account for quite a high number of test fails, and we want to make sure that that doesn't include yourself. So I've got a simple method for you to recover from stalls safely and effectively using the 4Rs. But before I do that, I just want to quickly cover off what are the main reasons for people stalling in the first place. So we've got a number of reasons, but amongst them are rushing the clutch, bringing it up too quickly, or bringing it up too far, getting too much bite, or not giving it enough gas so that the car isn't able to deal with, for example, quite a steeper incline or maybe a heavier load, or staying on the foot brake too long as you try to raise the clutch. Some people do what I call foot juggling, and basically they just keep their foot on the brake a bit too long, and that causes the engine to cut out. Very similar is keeping the handbrake on too long, especially on a hill start. So the handbrake's still got too much grip on the back wheels, and the clutch comes up too far. This results in a stall. Or just being in the wrong gear. So you should really be in first gear most times to move off, but you've come up to a junction, you're in third gear possibly, you don't realise it's in third, you leave it in there and try to move off, and hey presto, the car cuts out on you. Very important to make sure that the gear is correct. But overall, the things that causes stalling, if you're a competent driver, is more likely to be nerves and panic. One of those 6 things or something else possibly causes the car to cut out, but it's come about because you were a little bit nervous, which can occur on your driving test. This is usually brought about by worrying about traffic behind, or you're at a particularly difficult junction and you're struggling to get out. Take your time, look for a safe gap, and then when it's time to move, do what you know to be right and in the correct order. And don't rush. This is the best way of avoiding getting into a stall in the first place. However, as we've seen, stalls can happen. So what we want to consider is how to successfully recover from a stall. And I've got a simple acronym to help you do this. It's simply the 4Rs. So the first one is regain control. So that's control of yourself and, importantly, of the car. Then reset the controls. So we need to make sure that everything is ready for you to make a successful move off on your next attempt. Restart the car if necessary, and you also need to check that the car actually has stalled. I'll talk about that as well. And finally, before you move off, and this is really important, reassess the situation, because things could have changed and maybe it's not now safe to move off. If that's the case, then you should basically remain where you are and wait for a safe opportunity. So now I want to take you through each of those in detail. So first of all, regain control. So this is making sure that you have proper control over the car. So the possibility is if you stall that the car's going to roll. So it's very important to get your foot onto the foot brake as quickly as you can to make sure that the car stays where it is. You may also need to apply the handbrake as well to allow you to go through the following steps and to move away safely. This is more likely going to be if you're on a hill. If you're on the flat and the handbrake isn't needed, then there's no point taking it. It's just going to waste valuable seconds. One of the things the examiner is going to look for if you do stall is that you can recover from it safely and effectively. And if you go through a process of putting the car back into neutral, putting the handbrake on, etc., when it really isn't necessary, that is wasting seconds and may ultimately cause the examiner to not look at you as having recovered effectively. So only use the handbrake if you really need it, but importantly, make sure the car doesn't roll, so the foot brake is almost always necessary. And also, make sure you get control of yourself as well. Regain control of yourself. If you have stalled because you're a bit nervous, then just try to convince yourself that those nerves are not necessary, and make your next attempt less rushed. So secondly, reset the controls. So we need to make sure that the car is actually ready to move off. So your clutch needs to be back down because you're not going to be able to start the car properly without that. And you need to check your gear. Now, this is the part that many people miss. They may have come up to a junction and stopped in third gear. In fact, if you've been watching that series, Secrets of the Driving Test, you'll have noticed that in the first episode, I think a lad failed his test for this very reason. He got to a junction, he was trying to move off. He tried 3, maybe 4 times trying to move off, and each time the car stalled, and finally the examiner turned to him and said, "You're in third gear." So check that you are in first gear. Pull it out of gear and push it across, well away from you using the palming method, and make sure you're in first gear, even if you think you were. It's worth checking to be sure. Don't just look at the gear stick. First and third gear can look very similar, so check it with your hand. Now, third R, restart the car. Now, this may occur automatically when you put the clutch down if your car's got auto stop-start technology like mine has. So sometimes the car simply restarts when the clutch goes down, but often this is not the case. So turn the key. And you do actually want to be sure that you have stalled in the first place. Many people will maybe not move away quite smoothly or sort of abort an attempt to move in and then they think they've stalled and they haven't. If you can't hear the engine, if you're not become used to what the sound of the engine is, then at least check the rev counter. If the rev counter is showing 0, then yes, you've stalled, but if it's showing 1 or above, then, or even just below 1, then the car's ticking over, you haven't stalled. Some of what I've just gone through won't be needed, the car will already be running, it will simply be a case of moving away safely. So you now know your car's running, you've got yourself in first gear, you're ready to move off. Now the important thing now, and this again is where many a driving test could fail, is to not just drive away just because you could a few seconds earlier. You need to reassess the situation. So if you're at a junction, make sure you redo your checks. Is everything still clear? If you're at some kind of crossing, are people waiting to cross or have they started to cross now? Make sure that that's still clear. At a set of traffic lights, are the traffic lights still green with enough time for you to clear the junction successfully, or have they now turned back to red? Or any other number of things. Make sure you reassess what's going on. Now, if you've done all your 4 hours, you've done them all correctly, and you move away safely, then there's no reason that that stall should cost you your driving test. It should simply go down as a driver or a minor error. Okay, well, I hope you found that useful. If so, please click like, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will be putting up more videos in the not too distant future. But for now, goodbye.